It is what you say immediately before you deliver your message that leverages your success tremendously.
You may unconsciously have acquiesced to the digital ID even though you think you're saying no. There are small choices that we make that influence the larger. Inner authority is developed through those smaller choices. This is all for entertainment purposes only, just something to noodle around with. Try it on for size and see how it fits, right? There's a principle in marketing that basically goes like this. When you get someone to say yes, and it can be on anything. Do you like the color blue? Yes. Do you like meatballs? Yes. You do a series of yes, and then they're more apt to say yes to some of the questions that come next. So it's basically warming someone up to the idea of yes. The government will get you to do the same thing. So they're not just going to introduce the digital ID like poof, it's there. They're going to get you to say yes in certain circumstances that gradually get you to basically say yes to the digital ID. It's kind of a natural step. It doesn't feel like such a far leap, okay? Here's one of my primary examples. One way you can basically exercise your inner authority, and that has to do with alcohol. So somebody asks you for ID, and you're obviously well over 21, right? And so you're like, no, I'm obviously over 21. And I did this in the store. I'm like, the guy was like, you got to show me your ID. I'm like, no. He goes, well, I'm going to have to get a supervisor. I'm like, great, go get one. They got one. Supervisor was older. She's like, saying no in this circumstance is a way of strengthening your authority because it's a minor thing. And if you walk away without purchasing alcohol, it's no big deal, right? And I'm going to give some other examples pretty soon where it ups the ante, so to speak. You're strengthening your inner authority, but your risks of doing so become greater, okay? And I'm not recommending any of these at all, right? This is just for educational purposes only, entertainment purposes only. We're just noodling around with some ideas. What's wrong with this? Well, okay, so one, it gets you to say yes. Two, you're giving your information over. Who are you giving this over to? You're giving it over to the person at the register. Now, who is this person? Who knows who this person is? Suddenly, they know where you live. Right? They know details about you. They can memorize your driver's license number. All that information on your driver's license or whatever ID you have that you use, there are other bits of information that can be used, in fact, to steal your identity. So it is sensitive information and not just something that you show willy-nilly, right? Okay, so this is a small thing that you can do. Let's say you want to start with something a little lighter. Let's say you're uncomfortable about filming in public because you don't like to be embarrassed. Well, one thing about inner authority is that it's good to be embarrassed because you get used to it. You have a stronger inner authority than this idea of being embarrassed by filming in public. Or let's say you get uncomfortable about doing yoga or doing some exercises or meditation in public. Well, if you were to do those things in public, you would basically be strengthening your inner authority. You don't care about all this stuff where people are like, look at that, look what he's doing. You don't care at all. You have enough inner authority and strength to calmly do despite possibly being laughed at, possibly people staring and looking at you. That is no big deal, but it strengthens your authority. Now, why is this important? Because when you get to other things that are of greater consequence, such as following rules where someone could die, I know I guess it's dramatic, but let's just say it's something else. Like let's say you come upon a checkpoint, okay, where they're just going to ask you for ID. Just randomly, like they're pull your card over and they're going to get you to stop and then want you to show your ID. And this is where, again, I have to say, whether you do this or not is totally up to you. This starts to be more at the level of what we're talking about when we're talking about digital ID. Because think about the previous, then 2020, the level of consequences that was at. This digital ID is going to be at the same level. So you have to strengthen yourself. So when someone asks you, to show your ID, you have to know the laws. Knowledge is on your side at this point. You can't just go and say, oh, I'm not going to do it. Like you need to know why it's actually against the Constitution, let's say, for them to ask you for this, okay? But then you have to back it up with further knowledge, like let's say a case where this is shown to be true. Now you can have this written down. You can have your talking points, so to speak, in front of you so that you pass this test. Now, it may be a minor test, like that roadside thing, you might get a ticket, let's say, because let's say you do it incorrectly and you get a ticket. There's still other things you can do to fight that. But believe it or not, this is still relatively minor compared to the choices we may have to make if digital ID comes to pass. It's vitally important, I think, to strengthen inner authority. So let's say you get pulled over. Now, knock on wood that doesn't happen, right? But if you should, there are certain rights that you have that are often intentionally not followed. Now, I'm not saying one way or another whether the person pulling you over is good or bad. I'm saying that they're doing their job, and in some states they can lie to do that, okay? So when you know that, okay, it's important to know what your rights are. Not enough to just have those rights. It's enough to exercise them. So, let's say you're walking along the sidewalk and a uniformed person asks you for ID. Well, is that something they can do? Or are they making you feel like, okay, I'm just going to do it this instance, just easier and like whatever. It's no big deal. It's much easier. I want to get to my place, whatever. These are point. Now, there are other exercises you can do that have more consequence, but I'm not saying you recommend that you do them. But I am saying that the more you strengthen your inner authority, and I'm certainly going to be doing the same on a regular basis, increasing my knowledge and strengthening my inner authority by exercising it in small ways and building up over time. And what this does is this ensures that when there's a larger choice, like digital ID, let's say, you're more likely to say no. Because when it comes down to it, it's just like these tests that you think you know what you would do in this situation. But when there's real consequences on the line, when you really have to make a choice between eating in that moment or saying no, right? Which one are you going to choose? And the stronger you get in saying no and being able to follow through with that, the more likely you are going to be the one that doesn't go with the digital ID. But until that point, my premise is this: you don't know. You will not know until you're tested. So test yourself before then, strengthen yourself before then, and then you're going to be much happier than if you don't. Let me know in the comments what kind of things you would do to strengthen your own inner authority. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like, share it with someone who you think would find it useful. It's all tied together: strengthening inner authority and deprogramming yourself, and then really kneeling down and living with purpose. So if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.